The story begins with a customer approaching Marty in the shoe store, asking about the old pair of pumps she left behind previously. While Lloyd heads to the basement to search for the missing item, Marty quickly signals his friend Murray to crouch low near the floor. He reveals a hidden wad of cash he skimmed from the register, playfully dubbing himself the manager while urging Murray to stay quiet. Marty then confronts Lloyd, insisting that his time as a salesman is over. He declares his intention to leave, demanding they settle his pay now. Lloyd bitterly predicts that Marty will never return to this honest work. And despite the older man's doubts, Marty firmly says his final goodbye.
I wish I could.
Later, Marty engages in an intense table tennis training session. He hits backhands and forehands with rhythmic precision against his partner. When the telephone suddenly rings, interrupting his flow, Marty refuses to answer. He complains he cannot track the white ball against a white shirt. His partner answers the phone, revealing Judy is calling with urgent news. She claims Marty's mother is gravely ill and speaking nonsense. However, Marty hears his mother whispering instructions in the background. The mother shouts to say she passed out, desperate for attention. Marty ignores the chaos, staying focused on his lunch break. In a meeting with Mr. Galanis, Marty pitches a revolutionary idea. He explains that players usually wear dark colors to track white balls. Marty proposes using an orange ball to allow for stylish white outfits. Galanis asks about the cost, but Marty insists it is a custom product. The tension rises when Galanis orders his son Dion to fetch coffee. Dion stands his ground, refusing to be treated like a servant. Galanis dismisses his son's potential, calling him limited and inexperienced. Defending his friend, Marty asserts that the game will soon fill stadiums. He confidently predicts he will appear on major magazine covers shortly. Returning to the store later, Marty finds the shop being closed up. He learns that Lloyd actually fell for the ruse about his mother. Marty marches into the shoe store to confront Lloyd, calling his mother to locate the missing shop owner. She admits Murray is away on a secret trip, and Marty realizes she lied to protect her boyfriend. He accuses her of sabotage before hanging up angrily. Turning to Lloyd, Marty reaches into his suit jacket. Lloyd fears a robbery, but Marty mocks the idea. He demands his money, threatening to shoot Lloyd's leg. He threatens to escalate the violence if challenged, but vows to return with 10 times the cash. He points out that Lloyd wants him fired anyway, and flashes his manager badge to prove his status. Marty reminds Lloyd the gun is pointed at him, and he demands the safe be opened immediately. Lloyd finally surrenders and hands over the requested money. Later, the team shivers in their cold dormitory, discussing how Japan has unexpectedly joined the tournament. Marty organizes a paddle check before the match begins, and he dominates his first game against the Japanese opponent. After securing the final point to win the match,
Silent.
Marty questions Julia on the phone about why she quit acting, but she insists on attending a promotional event for her husband. When she reveals he sells writing pens for a living, Marty mocks the profession before asking about her hotel room view. He tells her to look for a specific window across the street, claiming he will make an apple appear in a fruit bowl. Confident she will attend his match, he counts down slowly. At the arena, Marty faces Kletsky in the semi-final match, and although Kletsky scores a point during a long rally, the announcer eventually declares match point for the American player. Marty wins easily, securing his spot in the upcoming finals. That evening, Marty urges Kletsky to order the most expensive dinner, demanding the beef Wellington because it costs the most money. However, he flatly refuses Kletsky's pitch to join the Globetrotters tour, believing that performing trick shots is beneath his dignity as an athlete. Marty suddenly spots a businessman named Rockwell across the dining room, and he instructs the waiter to put Rockwell's bill on his tab. He watches closely as the waiter delivers the message to the table, and ignores Kletsky's confusion as the man begins walking over. Rockwell confronts them, asking if they have met before tonight. So Marty claims he simply wanted to thank him for the pens. The businessman is skeptical of this gesture and questions his motives. But Marty introduces himself as a professional table tennis athlete. He mentions he is playing against a Japanese opponent in the finals, explaining that the sport is growing rapidly across Asia. Marty suggests Rockwell could use the pen holder grip for advertising. He then introduces Kletsky, pointing out the tattoo on his arm. Rockwell mentions his son died in the war, creating tension, and Marty makes an offensive joke that fails to land comfortably. Trying to recover, Marty asks Kletsky to tell a specific story. Kletsky explains how an officer recognized him from a past tournament. which led to him dismantling dangerous bombs in the forest. He describes finding a beehive and smearing honey on his chest, allowing his starving bunkmates to lick it off for survival. The next day, the referee calls the coin toss for the finals. The announcer introduces Marty Mauser against the unranked Koto Endo. The game begins, and Endo scores the first point immediately. Marty struggles to return the ball, falling behind in the score. The crowd watches as Endo completely dominates the first set. The championship match intensifies as Endo takes a commanding lead, and although Marty fights back to narrow the score gap, and he visibly struggles to maintain his momentum, frustration boils over as he loses another crucial volley. And soon Endo secures match point, prompting the umpire to strictly demand silence from the crowd. Darus, after the final serve, seals his humiliating defeat. Marty screams that the game was rigged against him, while international news outlets praise Endo for his historic victory. Reports detail how the underdog triumphed over the American frontrunner, highlighting that Endo lost his hearing during the war, in which allows him to feel the unique rhythm of the game. As the Japanese nation rallies behind their new hero, Rockwell approaches Marty with a lucrative business proposition. He offers to stage a promotional exhibition match in Tokyo, promising luxury travel on a private plane, which Marty accepts with arrogant confidence. However, Rockwell explains the event is merely a scripted show, intending for Marty to lose to boost pen sales. But Marty insists he is the superior athlete. Rockwell compares him to a vaudeville circus act. And Marty retaliates by mocking the man's grief over his son, leading Rockwell to furiously demand he leave immediately. Sometime later, Marty returns to his cramped apartment, where his mother complains about his sudden presence, and though he dismisses her concerns about his future plans, and he vaguely mentions the upcoming trip to Japan, and then hands her a small souvenir from his travels, lying that it came from an Egyptian pyramid. Suddenly, a police officer grabs him by the arm, announcing that he is under arrest for armed robbery, and while Murray steps in to manage the volatile situation. Murray argues that the cash Marty took was stolen at gunpoint, and he refuses to bail his nephew out of trouble again, and he declares that he will no longer support Marty's mother financially, offering a strict ultimatum to return to the shoe shop. Murray warns that Lloyd will testify against him, but Marty crudely insults the officer instead of complying. Marty engages in a physical altercation regarding the stolen money for Japan, but his uncle eventually relents and agrees to let him go. They plan to meet at the Garden Cafe to appease his mother, yet just as the tension dissipates and cash changes hands, police suddenly pound on the apartment door and demand immediate entry. As officers break in, Marty scrambles down the fire escape to flee, and he quickly finds a phone to call Wally for a pickup. Desperate for cash, he proposes a hustle in New Jersey, then visits Rachel and urgently asks for a back exit. She traps him with the news that the baby is his, a claim Marty frantically denies while admitting his life is a mess. Her husband Ira storms in, prompting Rachel to lie about the situation. Ira becomes aggressive and threatens physical violence against him, so Rachel directs Marty toward the back exit to escape safely. He tries to use a payphone on the street but lacks change, until he luckily spots Wally and his taxi nearby.
$4, I'll pay you back, I promise.
I'm telling you right now, we only got 10 to play. It's coming out your window.
Okay.
How many keys?
You're not going the elevator with that dog. Take the stairs.
Marty stands amidst the waterlogged wreckage of a collapsed hotel room ceiling, arguing furiously with the landlord who tries to deflect blame for the structural failure. The confrontation escalates as Marty demands reimbursement for his ruined belongings. But the shouting match halts abruptly when paramedics burst into the room. They are confused to find the patient is actually a dog named Moses, and Marty desperately pleads for assistance to transport the injured animal to a vet. Sensing a liability issue, the landlord offers a bribe to make the problem disappear, and Marty shrewdly accepts the cash to cover the medical bills and his own silence. They quickly prepare to move Moses themselves to avoid further official scrutiny, as Marty realizes this payout is essential for his upcoming trip to Japan. He helps carry the whimpering dog out to a waiting vehicle, and they drive off while discussing the logistics of the recovery. Later that evening, at a crowded bowling alley where patrons wait for lanes, a newcomer named Seth challenges a regular player named Roger to a match. The game begins, but Seth quickly halts the action to dispute a technical foul, angrily insisting that Roger is violating the rules by catching the ball. Roger eventually concedes the point to calm the visibly agitated man. Realizing that his opponent is dealing with stress beyond the game itself, Seth reveals he is a taxi driver who was assaulted by a fare beater earlier that day, and he proudly describes how he tracked the thief down to violently reclaim his money. He flashes a large roll of cash, prompting Roger to warn him about the dangerous crowd. But the conversation is interrupted when Roger's friends announce their lane is ready. A heated debate ensues about whether Roger must forfeit his wager to leave the table, which allows a ruthless hustler to step in and challenge the emotional driver. The crowd gathers as the stakes are raised for a grudge match, watching intensely until a controversial shot ends the game on a technicality. Seth loses his entire bankroll and begs for a few dollars just to get home, but the winner mocks him and refuses to return even a fraction of the winnings. Hoping to recover the loss, the group pressures Roger to play against the arrogant victor, and they settle on a $40 bet to heighten the pressure of the next game. Team Wally celebrates their winnings from the hustle, and as the group counts the cash, they joyfully tally nearly $200. However, their mood shifts when they find the vet closed, and realizing the next town is 20 minutes away, they count the total loot to over $400. Marty attempts to persuade Wally for the full amount, claiming he can multiply the cash in Japan, but the driver firmly refuses the risky offer. Suddenly, the victims of their hustle spot them, forcing Marty and Wally to scramble into the taxi. The angry men surround the vehicle, demanding their money back immediately, and they recognize Marty as the famous player. The aggressors shout racial slurs and threats, so Marty urges Wally to drive away fast. In the panic, Wally reverses into a pole, damaging the car and sparking a heated argument. Wally fears for his livelihood and responsibilities, so Marty tries to calm the distraught driver. He promises to replace the cab before walking away, and later arrives at a venue looking for Lawrence. Marty asks an acquaintance named Ted for a favor, requesting to use the back room for the night. While explaining he has a pregnant woman with him, he privately checks on Rachel in the back, and noticing severe bruising on her face, he listens as she reveals her partner attacked her. Seeking shelter, Marty takes her to Dion's house, introducing her as his sister to his business partner. Dion hesitates due to strict house rules, but eventually agrees to let Rachel stay overnight. Hoping to impress Marty, Dion reveals a surprise, showing off boxes of custom orange table tennis balls. Marty inspects the professional packaging with awe, genuinely touched by his friend's dedication to their dream. After settling Rachel into a spare room, Marty discusses his desperate plan to reach Japan. The next morning he calls Rockwell's office, trying to locate the businessman, but the receptionist refuses to disclose his location. Marty leaves an apologetic message instead. The story continues at the Morosco Theater, where Kay rehearses a dramatic scene involving a domestic dispute, screaming at her scene partner with raw emotion on stage. But the emotional intensity is cut short by the director, who complains about the rhythm and locks the set door. Glenn halts the production to lecture the cast, giving Marty a chance to approach Kay from the sidelines. He sympathizes with her frustration over Glenn's controlling behavior, and questions why the actor didn't just break the prop screen. Marty boldly interrupts the director to offer unsolicited advice, demonstrating the correct way to hold a knife for a fight, which only angers Glenn, who immediately kicks him out. Outside the theater, Marty spots Rockwell leaving the building, and he desperately tries to pitch his Japan trip again. Rockwell refuses to engage and tries to enter his vehicle, so Marty blocks the door to beg for 2 minutes. However, Rockwell forces his way into the car and drives off, leaving Marty furious until an assistant invites him to lunch. Soon, Marty joins Kay in her private hotel room, listening to her regrets about settling for security, and encouraging her to take financial advantage of her husband. Marty declares that he must succeed on his own merit, even though he currently has no job or income. He admits he plans to live off her room service, so Kay mocks his childish outlook on survival and success, leading to a tense moment where he insults her marriage. Later, Marty tries to secure his tournament spot by phone, promising a check is in the mail while visiting a pawnbroker. He attempts to sell a necklace he took from Kay, but the broker reveals the jewelry is a worthless fake. Desperate for resources, Marty calls Dion to stall him, while instructing Rachel on another line to steal car keys. Rachel grabs the keys while Dion is distracted in the kitchen, allowing her to slip away and meet Marty at a gas station. The story continues as Marty asks a local man about the dog, but the stranger suggests checking the animal pound nearby. Desperate for any lead, the pair approaches a secluded house. Marty sneaks into the backyard to investigate the property. Peering through a window, he spots his dog inside. He frantically calls out to the animal through the glass, until a couple emerges from the house to confront them. When Marty claims the dog belongs to him, the homeowner aggressively denies it and orders them to leave. Tensions escalate as the man threatens violence against the intruders. Marty refuses to back down, shouting angry threats of his own. The homeowner suddenly reaches for a weapon, forcing them to flee. Rachel drives frantically into a cornfield to escape the gunman. Later, parked in a lot, they attempt a telephone scam. Rachel calls a stranger, claiming she found their missing pet. She demands a large cash reward for the animal's return. Rachel tries to guilt him with a story about her pregnancy. The scam falls apart when the stranger insults her logic. Marty watches as the call ends in total failure. He realizes they are stooping to pathetic lows for cash. They return to the garage, hoping to sneak in quietly. Dion is awake and spots the damage to his father's car. Furious at the deception, he orders them to leave immediately. Rachel tries to manipulate him by mentioning her unborn child. She creates a scene, weeping to make Dion feel guilty. However, Marty notices something strange on her face during the act. He touches her skin and realizes her bruises are fake. Horrified by her deceit, Marty compares her to his abusive mother. Rachel screams at Dion, asking if he considers her situation at all, and she ignores his desperate pleas to keep quiet for his parents. Dion's father interrupts, shocked to find strangers arguing in his home. He realizes his son has been secretly giving Rachel large sums, and the older man accuses Rachel of conning Dion for money. Desperate and pregnant, Rachel asks where she is supposed to go. Later, Dion coldly explains that he has a destiny to fulfill, claiming her lack of purpose puts him at a disadvantage. He refuses to settle down, focused entirely on his upcoming trip. Dion offers to find a maternity home if she leaves her husband, but ultimately demands that she leave him alone to focus. He dismisses her, telling her to simply return to her house. Back home, Rachel wakes Ira to confess the baby is not his. Ira explodes in a rage, hurling abusive insults at her immediately. He forces her into a corner, threatening violence while screaming wildly. He claims the child will be a failure like its father. His mother intervenes when the noise wakes the neighbors, and Rachel leaves the toxic environment to proceed with her next scheme. The next day, Rachel meets the dog owner to execute the exchange. She demands cash up front, refusing to reveal the pet's location. The tense standoff escalates as the owner demands proof of life. Rachel points to an accomplice exiting a building with the animal, urging the woman to pay so they can conclude the deal. However, the exchange turns volatile as the owner grabs the dog, and Rachel screams for help, framing them as thieves to escape. Meanwhile, Marty approaches Kay to return the necklace he stole earlier. Kay reveals the item is merely costume jewelry from the production, and she dismisses his apology, claiming he is still running a scam. Kay introduces him to Merle, her publicist, shortly after. Merle makes a crude remark while offering a ticket to the show. Elsewhere, a man named Jed practices aiming a rifle in a theater. After the performance, Marty meets Kay, who offers him a valuable gift. She hands him an expensive diamond necklace to fund his Japan trip. Kay admits the jewelry represents years of misery with her husband, giving Marty the means to finally achieve his dream. Just as they share a tender moment, headlights flash upon them. A voice commands them to freeze, forcing them onto the ground. As security guards shout for the pair to stop running, an officer intercepts them and demands to see their hands. The man lies that they were searching for lost earrings, but the mood shifts when the cop recognizes the famous actress. He apologizes for stopping Kay Stone and awkwardly offers cash, so she cleverly bribes him with an expensive diamond necklace. The officer accepts the bribe and finally lets them leave, allowing Kay to rush upstairs to find David furious. The tension breaks when Merle announces the review is out, and they read the glowing headline in the paper together. Meanwhile, Marty enters Rockwell's office to beg for a chance, pleading for the Japan job while offering total professional submission. Rockwell mocks him, asking his staff if Marty deserves mercy, but eventually agrees to the request with a humiliating condition. He orders Marty to fetch a large paddle from the desk, and forces him to bend over a chair for a spanking. Marty endures the degrading punishment to secure his seat on the plane, while Rockwell strikes him repeatedly and promises the flight tomorrow. Later that night, Marty visits a local bar to find shelter. telling his friend Ted about the upcoming trip to Japan. But his relief vanishes when a hostile man approaches him inside. The stranger reveals that he has Rachel held hostage nearby, threatening to hurt her unless Marty leads them to the dog. Trapped, Marty agrees to take them to the stash house. They drive to the location and force him out of the car, where he knocks loudly to confirm if Moses is inside. A sudden bark signals that the dog is indeed present, but gunfire immediately erupts from the house without warning. Marty scrambles for cover as bullets fly in every direction. And amidst the chaos, a voice screams that they are shot. Rachel screams in panic as the chaotic scene unfolds around them. And checking on her condition, Marty realizes she is bleeding heavily. Desperate for funds, he searches the attacker's jacket pockets and curses under his breath upon discovering the hidden money. He grabs the cash and quickly regroups to help her, confirming the amount is substantial enough for her escape. He tells Rachel she finally has the means to leave, but complications arise at the hospital when doctors rush her away, forcing Marty to stay behind as she enters the operating room. Sometime later, Marty travels all the way to Japan. Waiting in line until finally catching the organizer's attention. He practices briefly before approaching Mr. Sethi to apologize, insisting that his rude persona was merely an act for show. Despite his contrition, Sethi coldly informs him he is banned, declaring that Marty wasted his time traveling so far for nothing. He stands in disbelief at the harsh rejection, but refuses to accept defeat and interrupts the event. He insults the champion to provoke a response from the crowd, and Endo eventually agrees on the condition of kissing a pig. Rockwell introduces the animal that the loser must kiss, but Marty interrupts, demanding a legitimate game against the champion. He claims that the exhibition was entirely staged and fake, rallying the crowd until Endo agrees to a real fight. The two men prepare to engage in a fierce battle, trading powerful shots as the crowd cheers for the underdog. During a break, Rockwell tries to demoralize Marty with threats, claiming that winning this game will only lead to eternal unhappiness. Ignoring the psychological warfare, Marty returns to the table, pushing himself to the limit to reach power match point. The intense rally continues with the crowd shouting their support, until the game ends with mutual sportsmanship and respect. Marty's mind quickly turns to more personal matters back home, and calling the hospital, he learns Rachel was moved to maternity. He panics and demands immediate answers from the receptionist, and upon arriving, he bypasses the front desk to enter. He finds Rachel sleeping peacefully after her surgery was completed, whispering his love and promising to stay by her side. A nurse enters the room carrying a newborn baby boy, and offers to let the new father hold the infant. Marty gently greets the child he helped bring into the world,